doesn't take any effort at all to, I never talk about Mossad on my show because I'm not stupid, but you can get like all these agencies, all this, just follow the money, and somehow Epstein is connected to Iran Contra. Just follow the money.
How's he connected to Iran Contra?
When I think he was an advisor for Adnan Khashoggi back in the 80s. It's like an arms dealer / asset, wealthy family / move a lot of weapons around, move a lot of cash around. And I'm going to get a lot of things wrong today. So, my job is not to get everything right. My job is to get you thinking and go find out. So, they needed to get cash and weapons. We need to get weapons to Iran, which is illegal. And Congress told them, no, no, no. They passed law. They just did it anyway. And we got to get cash to the Congress. And we have to do it without Congress knowing. Which isn't an ideal way to run a democracy. But so you need middlemen. And Khashoggi is known as a middleman for the IC, and Epstein seems to be. And it's not like I'm the first to talk about this. I've heard people who met him, people like Eric Weinstein, who I like, tells his story about meeting Epstein and walked out of there feeling like I don't think he's ever said it publicly that he felt like Epstein was part of the IC, but he said he felt like he was a manufactured personality. And he kind of hinted at there was someone kind of pulling his strings, kind of creating this facade. Because he was a guy who had I don't think he had a college degree, and he ends up teaching math at age 20 at a wealthy school, and just suddenly skyrockets through the finance game. It doesn't add up. So we're not going to learn, because it would wreck all kinds of things.
No matter, they botched this so bad. They had all the influencer types up at the White House at the very beginning, holding up the binders. Oh, we got it.
Or whose idea that was. That was such a disservice.
What were they thinking? I mean, and then the distractions and diversions that have come up since. It's like, you guys have botched this so bad, no matter what comes out, unless it is aligned with the wildest conspiracy you've ever heard of, nobody's going to believe it.
Not going to believe it.
Nobody's going to believe it.
There was no tape, but then there was a tape, or then there was a tape, but only Bill Barr saw the tape. Bill Barr's father, of course, is involved with Epstein and Elaine. Go figure. But now there is a tape, but there's some minutes missing, which is a story we hear over and over. There's always minutes missing. Always the minutes are missing. So, I don't know. So now we're at the point where we don't trust anybody. And I don't follow it close enough. I talk about political issues a lot, but I'm not ideological. So, just a quick sidetrack. So I get attacked quite a bit for being far left and far right. And for, being ideological. And I keep saying I'm political, but I'm not ideological. Politics to me is governments and how they interact with society. That's what I'm interested in. So I did this experiment. With 3 major AI platforms, so Google Gemini, Anthropic Claude, and OpenAI ChatGPT. I sent the same question in. Analyze all of iPod's episodes, everything that AJ Gentile's ever said publicly on every podcast, everything he's ever written that's been published. Analyze all that and tell me, is he coming at these issues from the left or right? All the AI platforms, and if you're listening to this, you do it yourself. Since there is no left or right bias in anything that I'm saying, I'm focused on truth, facts, research. I'm clearly anti-government, pro-transparency, anti-corruption, and that is where I come from. So when I talk about Epstein, I'm going to get attacked from different sides. I don't know is it a left-right issue? To me, it's not. It's a transparency, corruption issue. It shouldn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican, which are fake now anyway. So I don't know. I could be saying controversial things today to one side or the other. I just don't know which side until I get home.
Yeah, the media has a big say in that. I got painted as this ultra-right mega podcaster, and I'm not. I'm very middle of the road. And so I had to work my way out of that and we're doing it. But yeah, America's just become so tribalized, man, and it goes back to critical thinking. Nobody seems to have the fortitude to critical think anymore, and so it's if you say anything that's against one party or another, no matter whether if it's true, in everything that we do, we try to our best to bring truth, and it's like, man, like you're not listening. You're not listening. Like, this is a fault of this specific party, and you have wrapped your entire identity up into this shit, and you're not fucking listening.
That's the problem, is when your identity is your ideology, now you have a problem. Now you've created a bubble, and you've got to protect that. So you can't hear anything that goes against your identity. Your identity is the party. That's a bad situation. I say to my audience, if you're on the left and you think the right is the problem, if you're on the right and you think the left is the problem, you're the problem. Because that is all here. This is just to keep us spinning our wheels. We should, instead of worrying about party politics, because the establishment on the Republicans and the establishment Democrats want the same thing anyway. They want big government, war, and all that stuff. But most of us don't want that stuff. Most of us are kind of in the middle of things. I don't identify with either party. I'm pro-troops, pro-military, but anti-war. I'm pro-cop, very pro-law enforcement, but I think we need reform. So I don't think I'm not unusual. I don't think those are controversial things. Pro-choice, pro-life, that's between you and God. I'm not involved in that. I'm very libertarian on those things. And I think we need to get away from the tribalism and start to look at individual issues and individual people and call out the corruption when we see it. I don't know how many politicians you've interviewed, but in my career, I worked as a contractor in the engineering side in politics for almost 20 years, from local villages all the way up to having clients in Congress. Politicians, famous ones. I have name brand clients. These are just people. They're flawed. They're ambitious. Can't really be trusted, but they're all the same. And we work with both parties, and you'd have these meetings with Republicans and Democrats. It's just the same person. Well, they just want to get reelected. They're going to say whatever they got to say to the base, get reelected, and I just feel like it's a smokescreen.
WWE wrestling.
That's what it is. What it is. And our system, it's such a shame because our system does not encourage the best and brightest to get involved. I'd never run for office. You said they tried to recruit you? No. Yeah, you got a wife and kids.
I think that's how they control you. I think that's also why we're seeing a lot of young, weak people get into office, is because they're propped up and they know they're going to be very easy to control.
Yes,
that's what I think. And it's just through doing this, I see how easy it could be to fall into certain traps, take a favor from somebody. It seems like, oh, I just want to help you. Like, what are you, my fucking parent? No, I know what this is. You're going to do this, and then 6 months later, you're going to start asking me for favors and dangle that shit in front of my face. No, not doing it.
Right. And if you don't do it, we'll just primer you, or smear you. Or, nowadays, we'll just lock you up. We'll just raid your wife's underwear drawer. We'll just turn the FBI on you.
Yep. Well, I want to talk about the hollow moon.
Okay.
Is the moon hollow? I've not dug into this. I had a side conversation with Randall Carlson once, and he's the one that brought it up. I have not seen this episode of yours.
That's a fun one. That was Gino, my brother, said, you got to do this one. It's like hollow moon. That is nonsense. And then I remember researching the episode, and I just started to realize that there's a lot of weird stuff about the moon. By the time I was done with the episode, I was convinced that it was hollow. But there's a lot of weird things that have happened with the moon. Like, first of all, the moon is too big to be here. It's just too big. We've never found another system in our solar system or any other that has this giant moon right next to us like this. This is totally unique. we haven't found a moon that has such a perfect orbit like this. That also, it's the same side facing us all the way. We're a snowflake with this, totally unique. So that's strange.
No shit, I didn't realize that.
No, you haven't
You're
found
the only moon that we know of that doesn't rotate.
No, there are a few moons that are tidally locked like that,
Okay.
but it's rare. But when you stack up all these coincidences, it starts to paint a picture like the moon is weird. A lot of people will point to the fact that the moon during the eclipse is like the perfect size to black out the sun. It's like a 400-to-1 ratio. That's fair, but the moon at one point was a lot closer to the Earth, and it's drifting away, so at some point it's not going to be perfect. But the moon, the far side is, the crust is different, older, and much thicker, and fewer impacts are on the far side that are on the near side. We need to think it would be the opposite, because that's kind of like, should be grabbing things as they come in, but instead there's not as many impacts on that side. When, during one of the Apollo missions, as a test, a seismic test, they crashed one of the rockets into the moon just to take readings, the seismograph readings, to see, what was going on there. And the phrase is, the moon rang like a bell for over an hour. So if you set off like seismic charges here to measure sound waves that go through the Earth, as they go through the Earth, they slow down as they go through all this dense matter and then through the mantle of the core, like it just slows down. The moon, they don't do that. The sound waves sped up and started to bounce all around in there and started to like reverberate for a long time. And no one could really explain that. Now, the prevailing theory, the mainstream theory, is that the moon is a lot less dense than the Earth because it was created from the Earth's crust and the upper mantle, which is less dense, which is why the moon is less dense. So the interior has maybe some hollow spaces, or it's just it's not quite as dense. That's why.
Well done.
Okay. The sound waves bounced around for a long time. It was a long time.
This is true.
This is true.
What hit it again?
They dropped one of the rocket boosters. They just crashed in there. But they did seismograph readings in subsequent missions there, where they actually drop in like explosives, control explosives, and then just take the readings and see what happens, see the sound waves. It's a normal scientific thing to do. I think they were just surprised. But there's been a couple of NASA scientists who even said it would make a lot more sense that the moon wasn't here than the fact that it is, because there's so many strange things about it. And we see light on the moon all the time. They're called transient lunar phenomena. We just see these just light flashes on the moon all the time. And if you have binoculars, you can even see this. In one of the moon craters, I think it's the Aristarchus crater, there's this blue glowing light that just appears from time to time and then goes away and then it appears again. They call it the blue gem.
What?
And you can see it. So what's causing the light up there? Well, mainstream scientists will say, well, you're seeing flashes because the moon's, it's a lot like glass. It's very glassy and reflective, so you're seeing that. But we'll see light just go across. You'll just see light zip across. And then what's the blue light in that same crater that we've been seeing since 17th century? It's Aristarchus or Aristarchus crater, I think is how you say it. Blue light. What is that? And now they're seeing, just very recently, like this year, these swirls of light and gas is happening on the moon, different places. They don't understand it. There was one point where the moon doesn't really have an atmosphere. It has a tiny one. It doesn't really have one. But for a little while it did. There was just all this water vapor in the air on the moon that came from somewhere and it just disappeared. So I don't know what that is. And then you've had people who have seen pictures, like I've talked about Carl Wolf, who was U.S. Air Force, and he was like a technician. He basically the level is a copy repairman, and he's called in to fix some imaging equipment at NASA or Air Force, wherever. And he walks in there, and he's like an airman. And he sees another young guy, and he's like, "Oh, Carl, you gotta see this." And Carl looks, he's like, "What am I looking at?" He's like, "This is the backside of the moon. There's like cities there and stuff. There's mushroom-shaped things and towers and highways and all this stuff." I was like, "This is amazing. I can't believe it." And Carl said he went home, he told his wife, and he said, he was watching the news, waiting for this to show up on the news, but it never did. And you could see those photos allegedly, and I used them in one of my episodes. And that looks like a civilization on the far side of the moon. Carl, unfortunately, was met with an untimely death. He got hit by a car when he was riding his bike, so we don't know much more from Carl. But he was part of the 2000. So much.
That's crazy.
So much.
I
When I did the Kiss the Pats episode, I ended it with all the free energy inventors that, like the hydrogen car guy. He said he was poisoned. He said he's having like lunch with investors to like finally take his car ran on water. This is Stanley Meyer, and he's not feeling well, and he runs outside. He's like throwing up in the street, and his brother was his partner, and he's like, what's going on? He's like, I was poisoned, and then he dies, and that was the end of it. No more water car. And we just have this kid who created plastiline. He like took plastic and created fuel out of it, and then he disappeared for a little while. I think he's back. So it could be a conspiracy, but I'm going to look into him. But a lot of these inventors, so my favorite one is Sparky Sweet, who's worth looking into, because he has video of all this stuff like in his workshop, and you see he's got voltmeters and stuff, and all this energy's created, and he takes his camera around. He's like, look, nothing is plugged in, and it caught the attention of someone in military somewhere who said, I want to be your partner, and we'll take this wide, whatever. And he worked with this guy for a while, and then at some point, black man shows up, a couple of guys in suits have a conversation with Sparky and his wife. They go away, and he has a heart attack. That's really the end of it. Now all his research was taken, everything's seized, and that's how it works.
That's what happened with Nikola Tesla too, right? Did they seize all
his stuff,
80 boxes of research?
So when he died, it wasn't the FBI at the time, although the FBI was there. It was like the Office of Alien Property or something, whatever agency's in charge of foreigners. He died, and within hours, they were in his room. This is at the New Yorker Hotel. And they seized 80 boxes of his research, all kind of research plans. And it's national security. And they held on to it for months and months. And they finally returned his property to his nephew, but 20 boxes were missing. So in those boxes, allegedly, and this falls under Project Nick, is Tesla's research into direct energy weapons, to DWs, which was very hot with the military at the time, with DARPA and all of that. We still don't know what's happened to those boxes, but we do know that they were researching things based on Tesla's research. And the formula, the sort of the architecture,
Like, stop doing this shit.
a lot of it comes from Tesla's research. And it took me quite a while to connect the dots, that you will find Tesla's missing work suddenly shows up in patents from this guy somewhere in Alaska. I forget his name. And out of the blue, he lands a contract with the DOD for a lot of money, and they build a facility in Fairbanks, Alaska, and it's just a lab antennas in a small building, and it cost a fortune. Where'd the money go? Cost a fortune, and what it does is it ionizes and creates plasma in the atmosphere, and they say we use this to test the atmosphere. But it can also be used for all kinds of processes. What Tesla wanted to do was create free energy by exciting the ionosphere. That was what he was doing with Wardenclyffe Tower. But he needed funding to do that, and he couldn't get any funding. J.P. Morgan was his patron, and he told J.P. Morgan, you see it in his letter, I need a sum of money. He needed like $200,000 to get this project going. And J.P. Morgan said, well, you're building wireless communication. What do you need all this money for? And Tesla's like, no. Wireless communication, I got that. But we're going to do wireless energy. We're going to do wireless free energy for everyone on the planet can just tap into this and you just get free electricity. And J.P. Morgan says, well, how do you put a meter on that? J.P. Morgan owned copper mines that made copper wire. He owned rubber farms all over the world that made insulation for the wire. He owned lumber mills and forests that created poles for wire. He owned coal factories. He owned machine shops that created generators for electricity. And he owned the railroads that brought all this stuff around the country. Free energy shuts that whole business down. We don't need any of that. Carnegie, we don't need any of that. Ellenville, me and you guys, maybe. It's just free. Imagine what the world would be like if energy was just free.
That's the golden age.
Yeah, we're not going to live to see it.
Nope. Nope. Wow. Wow.
So I think I went off on a few tangents, but
Have you ever looked into the flat Earth stuff?
I have. I'm not a flat earther.
Me either.
You know, I don't even want to do an episode on it because to me it's so ridiculous. But people do request it. And me calling it ridiculous, I'm going to get a lot of hate for it, but I can handle the hate from the flat earthers. That's fine. But I do like the theory. Like on YouTube, you're not going to find much flat Earth stuff. That's is suppressed. But if you go land on Rumble and search flat Earth,
Why do you think they suppress it?
yeah, there's some stuff we'd have to talk about off air. But there are subjects that YouTube will just not allow you to discuss. So I can't say specifically because I made a promise to someone to not tell. But if you look at a couple of my demonetized videos, you'll see that they're kind of softball. Like, why is this demonetized? Go look at those. Those are no topics that I didn't know until it was too late. I was like, why is this demonetized? I can't talk about that. I'm like, everything's true in here. I debunk most of it. I can't even talk about it at all, true or not. So flat Earth, they don't like that one. But if you go on Rumble and spend like 2, 3, 4 hours just watching those videos, you walk away like, oh, it could be.
There's some compelling stuff.
Good stuff.
There are some compelling arguments.
Yeah.
I will say.
The Antarctica will say that's the point.
Damn. What do you think? So back to Nikola Tesla. What do you think about the pyramids? What were they?
So, gun to my head, I think they weren't used to generate energy. I think there's a lot of evidence for it. You know, for people interested in it, they can look into Christopher Dunn's work. He's done the research, definitive research on the pyramid power plant theory.
No way.
Tesla was fascinated by the pyramids, not so much for energy, but for how they were constructed, how they're constructed to true north and all of that. He was fascinated by the engineering of it. But his free energy device, a lot of that engineering can be seen in the pyramid. So Wardenclyffe Tower was his facility on Long Island, which is big, just a big tower. It looks like a water tower, but it's built over an aquifer. And what Tesla was trying to do was use the water creates this deep resonant sound that resonates with the Earth's natural frequency. Everything has a resonant frequency. Whether the Earth, this chair, our bodies, everything does. And if you can come into harmony with that frequency, it will expand, it will amplify. And there's been research that certain wavelengths broadcast at the Great Pyramid will amplify that electromagnetic energy. It's around 200 meters, I think. So Tesla was fascinated with that engineering. But the pyramid power plant theory is a lot like Tesla's technology. The Giza Plateau, there is an aquifer under there. There's a lot of water under there. And that water would create this resonant frequency. And they found copper rods that go down there that would help bring up some of the electricity or how it worked. And then in the pyramid, at the various chambers, there's residue of certain chemicals that when combined create a lot of hydrogen, like a lot of the violent reaction of hydrogen. So coming down from the Queen's chamber and then, I forget the other chamber, but they're built in a way so they come down, you use gravity, and you just pour these chemicals down, creates this hydrogen reaction, which we know there's residue of these chemicals there. This is not a conspiracy theory. The hydrogen expands, comes up through the gallery, just this big hallway that goes up to the King's chamber. And they discovered that in the Grand Gallery there used to be these wooden posts or some kind of wooden, sort of flat wooden things. And those would create sound. It's called the Helmholtz resonator, like when you blow across a bottle. that air is Helmholtz resonator. So this hydrogen would come up through the chamber. These things would resonate with sound, the F-sharp chord specifically, and that would cause it to build up more and more and more. The hydrogen expands. This chamber is built out of rose granite, which is an unusual type of granite because it's densely made of quartz. And when you compress quartz, it creates electricity. It's called piezoelectricity. And if you have a lot of quartz, you can create a lot of electricity. There's been experiments done where if it's a mountain of quartz, it creates something like 10 million volts. Like it creates a lot of power. So you've got this, you've got the hydrogen expanding, creating this electricity. It's ionizing the air, amplifying it more. You've got the sound coming through, amplifying it more. And then you've got this hole leading into the King's chamber that's 4.8 inches by 8.4 inches, which is the perfect size for a hydrogen atoms microwave to just fit through as a waveguide. Comes up into the King's chamber, and the King's chamber has these pillars and on top of it a bunch of stones that are stacked. Everything is really smooth, except the top is really rough. And forever, they thought that they called this the relieving stones, that these would relieve the pressure of the pyramids. But they're not connected to anything, so there's no pressure there. But what they found is that this creates music, creates this chord. And what the theory is it's rough on top because they would chip away at it and tune it until it was just about right. And that's why it's smooth on the bottom or rough on the top. And if you had, so you've got all this energy, so how do we get it out? Well, when the pyramids were new or, intact, the interior is made out of a certain type of limestone that electricity can move around in. The exterior is made out of a different kind of limestone called Tura limestone, which is quarried from far, far away and brought in.
Way down the Nile, right?
Way down the miles away. Like you'll hear Daiwas talk about the limestone in the pyramid. He never talked about it before. Or the rose granite. So all these different, why don't you build the whole thing out of the same rocks that are right here? Why? Bring the Tura limestone to Giza, it's like bringing the sunglasses to the coast of Florida. It's like that small. But it's a special type of limestone that's very low in magnesium. It's a great insulator. So you've got this electricity, and then you've got sort of this conductor, and then you've got another insulator. And that's called a dielectric, and that creates even more power. And if you had a gold capstone on top, which is a great conductor, you can force that energy up through the capstone and up into the ionosphere. And that's what Nikola Tesla was trying to do. It's the same technology. Where I get stuck is, I love all of that. I buy it. But we don't see any evidence of what they did with the power. So the people who are really into it will say, well, the obelisks at one time also had metal capstones, so they were big receivers. Okay, but still, what did they do with it? There's no computers, there's no light bulbs. The ancient Egyptians didn't work with glass, so what did they do with it?
Get back to the safe.
My guess is the Egyptians didn't build any of this. Is the reason that we don't see any evidence of what the Egyptians did with power is because they didn't use it for power. I think the Egyptians just found it. And they said, wow, this is crazy. This gods must have made this, and it just became sort of this, religious type of structure. It's supposed to be the tomb for Khufu, but no mummy's ever been found in a pyramid. Never found any of that. Now, Egyptologists will say, well, they were robbed. The mummies were there, but they were taken out. All right, well, there's no evidence of any of that, but there is evidence of zinc chloride at one side and hydrochloric acid on another side and sulfuric acid here, and there's an inch of salt that would, down this chamber, that would be the result of a chemical reaction. There's evidence of an explosion at some point. All this stuff you can look up. You don't have to believe what I'm saying. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm just saying these things are true, and I'm just connecting the dots for my entertainment. But you can go look at them and make up your own mind.
Damn. So you think they found them?
And it takes time. I think it's for a long time. So what do you think that was?
Previous civilizations.
Civilizations. I'm not an alien guy.
You're not an alien guy?
Not really, because I can't wrap my mind around the distances in space. They're so far. Like, we can't space is so big that the human mind we can't comprehend it. You know, like, so we've got this comet 3I Atlas just zipping into the solar system now. It's the fastest object we've ever found. It's like 135,000 miles an hour. We've never seen a comet move this fast. It's still going to take 6 months to get through. So it's that big. So I can't get my mind around
Oh, I forgot my...
aliens, wormholes.
Oh, the one reason I went
alien
back that
spaces.
way.
I can't get my mind around it. But something's going on.
Yeah.
I've seen videos. Most, I don't believe the whistleblowers. I don't believe anyone from Air Force intelligence. I don't believe any of that. And if you have a book out, I don't believe what you're saying. If you're cleared by the DoD,
I definitely don't.
I definitely don't. If you still have clearance and you're still a contractor and you're still working with DoD, I can't. Like, you're not a whistleblower. You're doing PR. So, with all due respect, I don't believe you guys. And Matthew Brown, I think his last name is Brown, he's kind of a compelling whistleblower because he doesn't go over the top. He just says, I found evidence of, something going on in space, and that's really all he says. So as far as the ancient civilizations, I don't go as far as like Graham Hancock might go, where this ancient advanced civilization, I don't want to put words in his mouth because I'm a huge admirer, a huge fan. I've made at least 10 videos based around his research. But in geologic time, the surface of the Earth just turns itself inside and out every few million years. So the Earth we're standing on now just wasn't here 10 million years ago. There's only a couple places on the planet that still have exposed rock that's 4 billion years old. I think Jack Hill in Australia, and then somewhere in Canada, like West Canada. Everything else is pretty new. So if there was a civilization, it's very easy for it just to get folded into just the tectonic activity of the Earth. And perhaps the pyramids survived that. When we see the pictures of the discovery of the Sphinx, it was buried. They didn't just walk up and see a Sphinx there. They saw like the top of their head. They're like, what's this? They dug all that out. And then on there, we see evidence of high volume, high pressure water flow and water erosion. It's kind of hard to discount that now, which they did for years. It's hard to discount it. When you look at Robert Schoch's work and Randall Carlson's work, to me, it's not debatable. It's right there.
Also on Easter Island.
Easter Island,
those
give me a moment,
heads, the Moai heads. People don't realize those heads have bodies. So you see all these heads sticking up. They have bodies. So first of all, Easter Island is in the middle of nowhere. If you look at it on Google Earth, good luck, you'll never find it. You have to type it in and then pull back and see how in the middle of nowhere this place is. So you've got these statues that are, 80 tons or whatever. So either there's 1,000 of them on the island. So either
there's 1,000
of those. So either they dug these holes and dropped in a giant statue and then filled it in, or the statues were there and then the Earth came over and filled on top of it. I don't know. I'm not. There's a lot of mud flood conspiracy theorists. I'm not one of those. But if those statues are really old, the Earth has changed quite a bit in that time. I don't know why they're buried.
All right, let's see.
And at one point, Easter Island had 25,000 people living in it. That's a society. And it's only, a few square miles. Tiny little triangle.
I did not realize that. I'd love to go there sometime. But aren't all these Stonehenge, the pyramids, Machu Picchu, Easter Island, I know there's more that I can't remember right now, but aren't all these things they're like a perfect line, right?
Yeah, there's the ley line theory that there are these lines of energy that go around the Earth. And where these lines intersect, they're high energy points, and that's where these ancient sites are. And they're pretty close. But when you look at the ley line maps, you can make it look like anything. I've seen ley line maps that look like just lines everywhere. Like you can make anything fit. So I'm not totally convinced on the ley line.
Gotcha. I'm not that in touch with it, but it's just. Have you looked into Stonehenge at all?
A little bit.
What's going on there? What do you think that is?
I really just think it wasn't druids. It was definitely an ancient culture, but they had pretty advanced engineering, and that whole compound is really big. Like it's more than just the stones that we see. It's a whole perimeter, and then there's another site not too far from
Excellent
us
work,
that's even
47.
bigger.
You've
But
spread
there's
fear
not really
amongst these
stones there anymore.
citizens.
But this was a giant compound. But these stones line up so well with equinoxes that it shows that there's some type of advanced engineering. And it doesn't sound that impressive until you realize that when you ask someone what an equinox is, kind of what I was taught was it's when the day and night are the same length. That's an equinox. But that's not what it is. That's an equal lux. That when day and night are equal is different for everybody on the planet, depending on where you are. An equinox is when the sun is perfectly over the equator around the Earth. So whoever built Stonehenge.
What? Hey, it's me. I'm hearing suspicious sounds. Lose the firearm. Hey, you practically begging me to be. I'm sorry, but that is very irresponsible behavior. This is why we need guns.
Well done, 47. This will surely be a blow to the Syndicate.
What the hell?
Hey, better safe than sorry, right?
You don't want to know.
Great. Now they're not even letting you get.
Well, you're no quitter. I've got to give you that.
Look, I can fix it. I'm homing in on the problem. I just gotta. Damn it.
Yeah. Are you sure you don't want a ride home?
It's not about that. Huh? I heard that. It's not about that. There's this guest, big shot lawyer fella.
I guess.
Offered to buy
Who cares?
this piece of crap for like.
Syndicate member eliminated. Well done, 47. You should get back to the safe house. I'll contact you later.
Hey, he's here. I know he is. You know what to do. Yeah, yeah! Yeah, I'll get the box. It's not about that.
Jeez.
Hey, brother, what's up?
See who could have done that? Oh my god, help! Help! Oh my god, help! Help! Oh my god, did you hear that explosion?
Oh, the owner? Disgusting.
No, it's just stupid.
It's a long story. You don't want to know. This day, man. This day.
Like the gear. Action man?
Yeah, I guess.
Besides.
Nobody gets in or out.
Excuse me.
No hotel staff, security, or guest, no matter how chubby with the man and or pregnant they might claim to be. Kitchen staff is the sole exception. Oh, and 2.
Hey, you there. Yeah, you, fishy fella. Who are you?
Not good. Not good at all, man. Hands are sweaty. Gross.
Okay, stand still, buddy. But, I'm hotel security.
What do you think?
Commander's dropping the ball like you wouldn't believe today. Okay. Hey, you need anything? I got some cool stuff.
Thanks.
Come back anytime.
Good for time.
Huh. Think I heard something suspicious. I'll take a closer look.
Say what?
Impressive work, 47. Let me know when you're ready for your next assignment. Bon voyage, 47. Welcome to Whittleton Creek. We have intel that the Syndicate is active in the area. You know what to do, 47.
Spends more time with them than he does with Janice.
A couple of weeks ago, I walked past him and I have to tell you, he gets into some pretty personal stuff with me. He shared his opinion on Janice. Let's just say it's not exactly overwhelmingly positive.
Well, the old men don't tend to be very likable. No. Maybe if you don't get along with the elderly,
you know,
stay away
I think
from a
someone
career where
there
you
is
make
trying to help the old
calls.
Jesus stop as well.
By throwing his coffin nails over the fence? Seems pointless. There's no reason for him to kick the habit when he's already so close to kicking the money. Fuck it. I say, let the old man smoke.
Have you seen that oxygen tank near his bedroom window? When you can't breathe with the help of your own lungs, it's probably not wise to also breathe through cigarettes. Letting him smoke is...
Well done, 47. This will surely be a blow to the Syndicate.
In the garden!